At the engagement ceremony, my fiancé received a text message from Lily, his childhood friend and ex-girlfriend. After reading it, he immediately wanted to leave. I stopped him, questioning if he was truly going to abandon our family and friends present, but he pointed a finger at me, calling me heartless and asking if I would only be satisfied once someone was utterly destroyed. Without hesitation, I slapped him, stating coldly, "This is the last straw. If you walk out that door, we're completely over. Do you understand?" He always thought I loved him deeply, loved him so much that I would never leave, no matter what he did. But there are plenty of other fish in the sea. What made Liam so confident that I couldn't live without him? Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel and tell us where you're listening from in the comments. The text from Liam's childhood friend came right as the photo session was ending. In the lull while the officiant adjusted the sound system, Liam's phone buzzed with message alerts, one after another. My hand, which had been linked through his arm, slipped away. Everyone close to us was here tonight, aside from our parents and relatives. Only one person would be sending urgent, frantic messages at a moment like this, Liam's childhood friend, Lily. The person who usually clung to Liam's side every moment was absent from this important occasion. Liam glanced at me, his eyes showing a hint of apprehension. I twirled the ring on my finger, letting out a soft laugh. "See? What if your childhood friend actually dies this time?" His face stiffened. The moment the screen lit up, a familiar panic flashed across his face. Without a word, he rushed towards the exit. I grabbed his sleeve, but he roughly flung me away, telling me to get lost. I stumbled backward, my waist hitting the edge of the dining table. Pain shot through me, and I barely managed to steady myself. My friends hurried to support me, carefully asking what was happening. Liam's behavior drew everyone's attention, and William's roar thundered in my ears. Under countless gazes, Liam finally came to his senses. He turned back, sweat beading on his forehead. "Grace, I..." He opened his mouth, but his voice caught. Liam always seemed to lose his mind and act out, completely ignoring the situation whenever Lily was involved. I rubbed my waist, gently patting my friend's supporting hand. Standing straight, I looked at Liam with a serious expression and calmly asked, "Liam, are you calling off the engagement?" "Grace, something happened to Lily. I have to go." His words were immediately met with William's furious reprimand, "Nonsense." William quickly walked over, grabbing Liam and pulling him back. "Are you out of your mind? What does Lily's trouble have to do with you? Do you remember where you are right now? This is your engagement ceremony. And how could you lay a hand on Grace just now? She's your fiancé." Liam staggered, looking at his father in shock. "Dad." Margaret, seeing William's furious expression and fearing he might hit their son any second, urgently pulled at Liam. "Liam, don't make a scene on such an important day." She then walked over to me, her face holding a sheepish expression, and took my hand to explain, "It's nothing, Grace. Lily is just a casual friend of Liam's. That girl probably sent the message by mistake." Her explanation was too forced. Everyone present knew whether they were just casual friends or not. Besides, I knew very well that Lily had always held an important place in Liam's heart. Important enough for Liam to make a scene for her again and again, trampling on my dignity and self-respect. But it didn't matter. This was the last time. This love triangle drama was about to end. I gently withdrew my hand from Margaret's grasp, my gaze as still as deep water. "Uncle and Aunt probably don't know, but this isn't the first time Liam has disrespected me because of Lily. Today is our engagement ceremony. Why, such an important occasion, and because of a single message from Lily, he wants to abandon me and everyone else here to rush to her side. It's clear that this misses Liam's true love." I walked step by step toward Liam, my high heels tapping a deliberate rhythm on the marble floor. "This Lily, in just 2 short months since returning to the country, has made my boyfriend abandon me multiple times. The first time, on the very day we agreed to go to the temple to pray for our parents, Miss had a stomach ache. Instead of calling 911, she called Liam. And he drove off without a word, leaving me alone on the mountain. As I passed the head table, my fingertips lightly traced the champagne-colored silk tablecloth, finally stopping at an untouched glass of champagne. Beads of condensation slid down the glass from the cold. "The second time, on the night of my birthday, she called you again, saying there was a heavy storm and the power was out at her house, and she was scared. Do you remember what you did? A 30-minute drive to her house, and you got there in 15. Bubbles in the wine glass rose and burst with each sway. Through the amber-colored wine, I saw Liam's disheveled figure surrounded by relatives and friends, distorted like the silhouette of an absurd play. The third time, at a gathering of our friends, Miss showed up uninvited and made snide comments toward me and my friends. I merely scolded her a couple of times, and she ran off crying. You chased after her and never came back. I stood before Liam, tilting my chin slightly to meet his gaze. I raised my arm, twisting my wrist lightly, and the liquid in the glass spilled down its side. This is the fourth time. At our engagement ceremony, with both sets of parents, relatives, and friends present, a single message from Miss is enough to make you abandon all these people and rush to her side, disregarding both our families' reputations. Liam, have you lost your mind because of Lily? Margaret Tree. Dee stepped forward but was yanked back by an ashen-faced William. The amber-colored wine snaked down Liam's hair, trailed over his pale cheeks, soaked into the collar of his pristine white shirt, and left a prominent stain on his dark suit jacket, a laughably pathetic sight. It's not like that. Liam's lips parted and closed several times, but he couldn't form a complete sentence. He closed his eyes, as if finally making a decision. Grace, this is the last time. Lily has serious psychological issues. She has no family. In this city, she only has me. She got sick because of me, and I can't abandon her. I swear, this is the last time. I'll make everything clear to her and cut off all ties. Really, please believe me, okay? Liam's fingertips unconsciously curled and relaxed, his Adam's apple bobbed several times, and his gaze was frantic and pleading. His self-pitying display was truly sickening. A murmur of conversation rippled through the guest tables, and everyone watched us with varied expressions. Liam's statements were utterly outrageous, a perfect example of scumbag comments. Anyone who heard them would feel uncomfortable. Evan's friends frowned, speaking up one after another to advise him. Liam, Lily is your past. Whether she lives or dies is none of your business. This is your engagement ceremony. What kind of behavior is this? Leaving now? Are you going to be a scumbag? If you care so much about Lily, why did you date and get engaged to Grace? Having your cake and eating it too? Are you out of your mind? That's enough, Liam. If you leave now, are you going to leave this whole mess for Grace to clean up? You usually seem perfectly normal, but when it comes to Lily, you're like a different person. I understand how you feel, but you've already let one person down, don't let another one down. Don't let your friends disrespect you. The buzzing of relatives' discussions and his friends' admonishments rang in Liam's ears, and he felt a throbbing pain in his temples. My calm and composed demeanor, in stark contrast to his disheveled state, subtly eroded his sense of guilt. Now, he was even more humiliated than I was. Enough. He slammed his palm onto the dining table. The champagne tower crashed down with a piercing shattering sound. The veins on Liam's hand, gripping the tabletop, bulged. He stared intently at me, watching with detached amusement, and said, word for word, I have to go. His best friend started to speak but fell silent when he saw Liam's furious expression, as if he might lash out at any moment. I simply met his gaze calmly, my expression unperturbed. What if I don't agree? What then? I slowly brushed a stray strand of hair behind my ear, speaking lightly. My words were like a bucket of ice water poured onto burning oil, completely igniting Liam's fury. The pitiful, pleading look vanished, revealing an ugly core. Liam's expression turned cold, almost ferocious. He looked at me with what seemed like incomprehension, and perhaps deep disappointment. Grace, I thought you were just a bit cold-hearted, but I never imagined you could be so cruel. Lily has very low self-preservation. I wronged her in the past, and now I just want her to be okay. Why must you be unforgiving even when justified? Will you only be satisfied once you've destroyed her? Liam's fingers twitched nervously, a habit he had when feigning calmness. I suddenly recalled the night Lily first returned to the country. He had the same expression after taking a call outside the restroom, as if choked by an invisible leash. Grace, his voice was squeezed out through gritted teeth, she once swallowed 30 sleeping pills, because of me. My patience ran out with that single sentence. I quickly raised my hand and slapped Liam across the face, causing a collective gasp from the guests. Listen to me, whether Lily lives or dies is none of my business. You want to be a hero, fine. But don't drag others into it. Liam, listen carefully. My voice was clear and firm, each word resonating powerfully. If you walk out that door today, we're completely over. Do you understand? I took off the ring and threw it at Liam's feet, stating coldly, now, get out. A man so utterly false and self-pitying was like rotten fruit, just smelling the air around him was enough to make one nauseous. Liam's head was turned, a vivid red imprint rapidly appearing on his cheek. He looked at the ring rolling at his feet, an expression of disbelief on his face. He stood frozen, mouth agape, as if to say something more, but the incessant beeping of his phone urged him to leave quickly. His thoughts were a tangled mess, then replaced by a certain resolve. Concern and urgency for Lily took over. No matter what, I love you. I'm just going to check on her, wait for me. With that, Liam hurriedly picked up the ring and turned to leave. Seriously, what a mess, I can't believe it. Seeing this, Liam's friends quickly chased after him. William's body trembled, his usually upright spine now slumped. Margaret clutched his arm, weeping. This had gone too far, their dignity was completely gone. Grace, Liam has wronged you, and we, as his parents, will definitely teach him a harsh lesson. Could you possibly give him another chance, for your uncle and aunt's sake? Looking at William and Margaret, I felt a touch of emotion. Both and Margaret were refined and highly educated individuals. Liam was their only child, born later in their lives, and he had done such reckless things, leaving his parents to clean up the mess. I remained silent, my gaze compassionate toward Liam's parents, until my mother, who had been silently observing, slowly stepped forward. This is as far as it goes. This gathering today, her voice, clear and precise as a piano's keys, each word carrying just the right weight, let's draw a line under the goodwill between our two families. She smoothed non-existent wrinkles on her elegant silk dress, graceful and composed. Let's save face for both sides. Mrs. Victoria. Mr. William's voice sounded 10 years older. Mr. William, my mother raised a hand, stopping his unspoken words. Liam isn't a child anymore. People must pay for their actions, mustn't they? She turned to me, her eyes gentle but resolute. Grace, let's go. Your father is waiting in the car. I nodded, taking one last look at the chaotic scene. The champagne tower had long since toppled, rose petals mixed with spilled wine clung to the marble floor, and the crystal chandeliers still shone brightly, illuminating the sordid and farcical display. As I turned, my apricot-colored skirt rustled faintly over the rose petals on the ground. The sound reminded me of 6 months ago, when Liam knelt to propose, the sound of rose petals falling to the floor. His eyes had been sincere then, saying that meeting me was the luckiest thing that had ever happened to him. But this did not prevent him from harboring another person in a secret corner of his heart. Most men in this world are like this, clinging to a romanticized past while clinging to the present. The hallway sconces shone brightly, and the glass wall reflected my image at this moment, a delicate face, cool eyes, and a composed expression. My pearl earrings shimmered softly in the light, calm and sharp, just like me. My eyes held neither the fire of anger nor the shadows of sorrow, as if the recent drama were merely a gentle breeze across the water, stirring not a single ripple. Not far away, by the entrance to another luxurious private room, a man in a black tailored suit leaned against the doorframe, a half-burnt cigarette between his fingers. White smoke curled before his stern face. His gaze pierced through the crowd, landing directly on me. His posture was relaxed, the tailored suit fitting his broad shoulders and narrow waist perfectly. A section of his distinctly jointed wrist was visible beneath his cuff, a wristwatch glinting with a subdued metallic luster. In the light, the moment our eyes met, I paused, my breath catching. No other reason than that he was incredibly handsome, a sharp and captivating kind of charm. His high brow bone made his eye sockets particularly deep, his nose bridge was prominent, his features strong, and his facial contours clear and smooth. His tall stature and the suit fabric stretched to reveal the graceful musculature of his shoulders with every movement. He was like a drawn sword, sharp and dangerous, seemingly casually leaning there yet exuding an undeniable presence. My gaze fell to his long fingers, where the nearly burnt-out cigarette was held between his distinctly jointed digits. His hands were also exceptionally fine, long and slender with clearly defined knuckles, neatly trimmed nails, and prominent, strong wrist bones. What a waist! I frowned slightly, men who smoke are not interesting. I averted my gaze, ignoring the lingering stare behind me, and walked forward. 5 days passed since that disastrous engagement ceremony. The events of the banquet, recorded by an unknown person, were posted online. The uploader clearly despised the protagonist's actions, uploading the uncut video directly to the internet. It immediately topped Riverbend City's trending list, sparking widespread discussion and various opinions online. The way the young lady threw the champagne was so fierce. The ring toss was absolutely epic. Does no one else think Lily is manipulative and fake from beginning to end? I get it. And she's a master manipulator at that. This woman is so aggressive, no wonder the guy acted that way. What man would like such a pushy woman? To the person above, if you don't have a mirror, surely you have some self-awareness? Take a look at yourself. Liam is such a familiar name. Is he the CEO of Zhou? He has a pretty good reputation, so why would he treat his fiancé like this? Commenting anonymously, the female lead is our boss's, Liam's, fiancé. She's beautiful and Suful. Although she appears cold, she's actually very kind. She's visited the company many times and even brought us afternoon tea. She's genuinely wonderful, and many of us adore her. Reportedly, Lily is the boss's childhood friend and ex-girlfriend. They broke up years ago. She suddenly returned this year, and since then, the boss has changed. It's exactly as the female lead in the video said. No way. Ex-boyfriends and ex-girlfriends should act like they're dead to each other after breaking up. Do they really need to torment others by holding on? I sat by the floor-to-ceiling windows, my fingertips scrolling through the endless comments on my tablet. I thought, it's true, there are mostly normal people in this world. The few extremely nasty comments were pushed down and then individually screenshotted for verbal lashing. As I was scrolling through them one by one, my phone rang. I slid the screen to unlock it, and seeing the caller's name, I raised an eyebrow, opening the chat window with interest. It was a high-definition indoor surveillance video. In the photo, a girl lay weakly in bed, her face pale, while sitting by the bed, gently and meticulously caring for her with a bowl of porridge, was Liam. The video played, and perfectly clear voices emerged. Liam, have I caused you trouble again? The girl's weak voice seemed to carry deep self-reproach, tears welling up in her apricot-colored eyes. Liam shook his head, soothing her softly, it's all right. We can just reschedule the engagement ceremony for another day. But I saw the video online. It's my fault you're being cursed at by netizens, and Ms. Grace seems serious. I'm sorry, Liam, it's all my fault. Lily cried, her face streaked with tears. Liam reached out to wipe them away, his movements as gentle as if handling something fragile. Grace is just angry right now. She won't stay mad at me, and she certainly won't stay mad at you. Don't cry, it's not good for your health. Liam's guilt for Lily was practically overflowing from the screen. Liam's thought process genuinely made me want to laugh, fueled by anger. What kind of twisted logic allowed him to be so utterly convinced that I was just throwing a tantrum? The notification sound rang again. Lily sent a new message, In's heart, I'm the most important. No matter how deep his feelings for you are, as soon as I appear, you'll never be able to surpass me. Understand? I couldn't help but scoff. These two idiots were utterly lost in their own little world of make-believe. True love wins, wishing you both 99 years of happiness. I typed a line on the keyboard, hit send, then tossed my phone onto the sofa. Outside, twilight deepened. I rose and walked to my home office. On the desk lay the bid proposal for the suburban development site that had just come down today. I wasn't concerned about Lily and Liam. The most important thing now was Sterling's bidding conference in a week. The ownership of that land was in Sterling's hands. The development project was massive, involving commercial, residential, and public facilities. Whoever secured the partnership with Sterling would gain a firm foothold in the industry, at least remaining invincible for the next 20 years. Competitors were already eyeing it greedily, especially Evergreen. They were also a top-tier player in the real estate sector. According to my parents, their group was working overtime to rush the proposal to win this partnership. I took a deep breath and opened the title page of the bid proposal. Densely packed data and clauses filled my vision. As I pondered, my phone suddenly vibrated. Assistant's voice came through the receiver, hushed. Ms. Grace, I just caught wind that Evergreen's Mr. Robert privately met with Sterling's Mr. Stephen last week at Skyline. I'm afraid Evergreen probably has some specific insights into the bid proposal. My hand, holding the fountain pen, paused. Ink bled onto the paper, leaving a watercolor-like mark. Although large real estate bids strictly prohibited collusion, these informal communications were always a gray area. If truly understood the preferences of Sterling's senior management, even through subtle hints, it would be enough to create a significant gap in the technical bid scoring. Evergreen was clearly playing with fire by crossing industry fair competition lines. Do you have direct evidence? My voice dropped. Not yet, Michael paused. Ms. Grace, they are clearly involved in commercial misconduct. I'm afraid we won't win this bid. I poked the document twice with the pen tip, then suddenly let out a soft laugh. That may not be true. Tell the planning team to continue with the original Plan A. As for Sterling's Mr. Stephen, I clicked open a newly received email on my computer. The official report from the city's Ethics Commission was clearly visible. Whether he can even sit on the review panel is debatable. Michael's breathing noticeably hitched. You contacted the Ethics Commission? But Evergreen isn't the only one with connections. He has Mr. Stevens' preferences. We have the land rezoning permit from the planning department. I inserted the encrypted USB drive into my computer and sent the file to my assistant's email. Add the file I sent you to the technical bid appendix and personally deliver it to Sterling's CEO tomorrow. The last trace of twilight outside was swallowed by night. The bright, comfortable landscape wallpaper on my computer screen cast a glaring light in the dim room. Send out a company-wide notice. Tell them I said it. If we win this bid, everyone gets a company retreat to Iceland, all expenses paid by the company. 1 week was enough for me to handle everything. The partnership with Sterling, I was determined to win it. Time flew by, and soon it was the day of the bidding conference. Sterling, top floor, bidding site. The expensive crystal chandeliers illuminated the marble floor like a mirror. I sat at Vance's table, my fingertips light. Why tapping the bid proposal with its gilded cover. Evergreen's Mr. Robert, sitting diagonally ahead, frequently checked his wristwatch. Behind him, 2 assistants were engrossed in verifying the final data. I hear the new planning department regulations require all commercial plots to include 15% affordable housing units? Mr. Robert suddenly turned, a feigned smile, on his face. Ms. Grace will probably have to readjust her floor area ratio this time. I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms, watching him with composure. This level of provocation wasn't even worth my speaking. After all, why waste words on an opponent about to be eliminated? Suddenly, there was a stir at the conference room entrance. The moment the large doors opened, I paused slightly. The man I had seen once in the hallway at the engagement ceremony was stepping in, his impeccably tailored suit accentuating his broad shoulders and narrow waist, walking with a confident stride. The conference room lights subtly adjusted. Julian stood before the head review panel, his hands that exuded confidence and allure resting on the microphone, a valuable wristwatch peeking from beneath his suit cuff. His gaze swept the room, pausing imperceptibly when it met mine. Thank you all for waiting. I am Julian, the current executive CEO of Sterling. His voice was deep, carrying a calm, unhurried composure. For today's bidding conference, Sterling will only choose the most capable partners. He paused, his gaze subtly sweeping over Evergreen's direction before returning. He timed his pause perfectly, waiting until the room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop, before continuing. Of course, the prerequisite is fairness, justice, legality, and compliance. The last 4 words were spoken very softly, but they instantly made the atmosphere in the entire room tense. Evergreen's Mr. Robert felt uneasy, sensing that Mr. Julian's words were pointed, and he hadn't seen Sterling's Mr. Stephen. He worried about unexpected changes, but with the bidding conference underway, there was nothing he could do but try to reassure himself. I lowered my gaze, my fingertips gently traced the title page of the bid proposal, my eyes slightly narrowed. So, the man I had coincidentally met eyes with in the hallway at the engagement ceremony was Julian, Sterling's decisive and formidable leader, known in the business world as a ruthless hunter. Now, the bidding conference officially begins. Vance's affordable housing units ratio doesn't meet the standard at all. May I ask what Ms. Grace's basis for calculating the floor area ratio is? Mr. Robert suddenly raised his hand towards the review panel. To my knowledge, the new regulations require a mandatory 15% affordable housing units. A rustle of murmurs spread through the room. The head of Allied frowned and shook his head. The female director of Zenith had already switched on her voice recorder. Several smaller developers in the back row whispered among themselves, and the camera recording the meeting focused on this confrontation. I gave a cold, dismissive smirk. Mr. Robert was so impatient, immediately targeting Vance. How did such a simple mind become a CEO? This is the planning department's social compensation for Vance's project. I held up the document for everyone to see, then signaled my assistant to distribute copies of the specially approved document stamped with the planning department's official seal. We've additionally planned for 10% affordable housing units in the East, thus obtaining permission for floor area ratio adjustment. I slowly rose, my pearl earrings reflecting their unique brilliance with my movement. Mr. Robert, your information is outdated. Impossible. Mr. Robert's face turned pale. I received no such news. Furthermore, I clearly already taken care of things? Julian asked, his lips curving slightly, though no hint of a smile reached his eyes. He slowly loosened his cuff, his slender fingers tapping gently on the edge of the table. His voice was soft, yet it carried a weight that silenced everyone. Mr. Robert, your audacity is truly not to be underestimated, daring to bribe someone from Sterling to do your bidding. He chuckled softly, his eyes cold and piercing as he looked directly at Mr. Robert. Mr. Robert, having navigated the business world for so many years, don't you know, he suddenly stood up, the suit fabric tautening into sharp lines with his movement. His voice dropped to a whisper, yet each word was clear. Playing with fire by crossing Sterling's lines will get you blacklisted from the industry. A side door opened, and 3 Ethics Commission officers in uniform walked directly towards Evergreen. Mr. Roberts' face fell, his entire demeanor crumbling into despair. The assistants behind him staggered back half a step, scattering documents across the floor. One page fluttered to my feet, a document bearing Evergreen's logo, crumpled and creased from being tightly clutched. Julian, however, had straightened up, casually dusting his cuff as if his recent threat had merely been idle chatter. He gave a slight nod to the Ethics Commission officers, his tone detached. Please take him away. As expected, my Vance team won the bidding conference. When personally announced, the winning bidder is Vance, the entire room fell silent for a second before erupting into enthusiastic applause. My team behind me immediately cheered, their faces showing smiles of relief. A sensitive young woman even began to cry. I lowered my head to organize the documents. Vance's strength had never been underestimated, but partnering with a commercial giant like Sterling meant we would have the opportunity to participate in Riverbend City's urban development plan for the next 20 years. This contract was Vance's passport to new heights. Ms. Grace. Michael's voice trembled slightly. I saw his hands, clutching the documents, shaking. My gaze fell on his frayed cuffs. Recalling seeing him slumped asleep over his computer late last week in the conference room, the monitor still displaying the final floor area ratio calculation interface. You've all worked tirelessly during this period. I took the documents, gently patting his shoulder. I'm transferring $3 million from my personal account as a team bonus. You're responsible for distributing it. Seeing his eyes widen instantly, I couldn't help but chuckle. Don't decline, you've earned it. Let's go, time to celebrate back at the company. Ms. Grace. Just as I was about to turn and leave, a low voice cut clearly through the noisy conference room. When I turned, Julian was already standing a step away, close enough for me to catch the faint woody scent of his cologne. It was that ebony oud scent from Tom, a very pleasant fragrance. He extended his hand. I nodded and smiled, then reciprocated his handshake. Congratulations. His thumb grazed the thin callus on my tiger's mouth, a touch like a feather, slightly ticklish. It was the opportunity Mr. Julian provided. I gave a polite shake, intending to withdraw my hand, but his grip suddenly tightened, holding me captive. The warmth of his palm radiated through my skin, surprisingly hot, a stark contrast to his cool, stern face. Then I wonder if I might have the honor. He leaned in slightly, his masculine scent enveloping me, of having dinner with you, Ms. Grace? My gaze lingered on Julian's face. Seeing it again, I couldn't help but admire this face, seemingly sculpted by an artist. His features were profound, his bone structure superior, and even his skin was a shade fairer than most men's. His handsomeness was imbued with a sharp aggression, truly unparalleled in all of Riverbend City. Having dinner with such a handsome man, he himself, merely sitting there, would be a pleasing sight. Plus, with the partnership with Sterling solidified, dinner was perfectly reasonable. Not to mention his status, how many socialites, C's, CEOs, and bosses in Riverbend City had appointments with him that never made it onto his schedule? A definite win. My lips curved into a perfectly elegant smile. I pulled out my personal business card from my clutch, my fingertips gently pressing against the card's edge as I offered it. Mr. Julian, your invitation is too gracious to refuse. The purple card shimmered with a subtle dark gleam in the light. My fingertips, shielded by the card, inadvertently brushed against his palm. My personal number. I meaningfully tapped the gilded numbers on the card. I hope, Mr. Julian, you won't make me answer calls too late. He paused as he took the card, his thumb grazing the edge of the card, then suddenly chuckled softly. Ms. Grace, even the way you hand over a business card is like issuing a challenge. Until next time. My skirt swirled in a neat arc as I turned. After leaving Sterling, I told Michael to take the team back to the company. While I drove home, the engine hummed softly as I drove into the twilight. The car Bluetooth automatically connected to my phone, playing the instrumental music I'd been looping lately. The car entered the gated community, and soon I was at my doorstep. The living room lights spilled onto the lawn through the floor-to-ceiling windows. I turned off the engine, and the sensor light by the door illuminated. My parents had left the door unlocked. Just as I was about to push it open, I heard my parents' conversation. The family called again today. My mother's voice was like jade steeped in warm water, gentle yet firm. They want to make amends. Do they really think we don't know he's been spending all his time with that Lily girl these past few days? My father sighed, saying wistfully, Liam's parents are good people, and he was genuinely a good child at first. But he changed too quickly, like a different person. The sound of the door opening interrupted their conversation. Dad, Mom. I bent down to change my shoes, a triumphant smile on my face. The partnership is ours. Light refracted into tiny halos in my wine glass. I held the glass, my fingertips gently tracing its rim, letting the cool sensation seep into my skin. Julian sat opposite me, his suit jacket already off, leaving him in a crisp white shirt, collar slightly open, his collarbone subtly visible. Ms. Grace, do you have a particular interest in red wine? He suddenly asked, his voice deep, like aged wine gliding down the throat, carrying a lingering, mellow warmth. I looked up, my gaze sweeping over his hands, which were slowly cutting his steak, the knife blade making a faint sound as it sliced against the porcelain plate. Not really, I shook my head, deliberately tilting my wine glass so the deep red liquid left a winding trail on its side. In fact, I don't particularly enjoy drinking. I set down the glass, its base making a soft clink against the table, then fixed my gaze on Julian. Leaning slightly forward, the soft glow of the chandelier cast an ambiguous light over me. I went straight to the point. Mr. Julian, to be honest, have we met before? Julian's hand, holding the knife and dinner fork, paused midair. The cold gleam of the silver cutlery flashed across his jawline. What do you think, Ms. Grace? He replied, avoiding the question. As expected. I leaned back against the chair, my thoughts clear. From our very first meeting in the hallway, the way he looked at me held an indescribable familiarity, like flipping through a long-closed book, each page etched with shared memories. Mr. Julian, I smiled at him, my memory isn't the best. Would you mind elaborating? Julian chuckled, his stern demeanor softening instantly. He looked at me intently, speaking slowly. The first time Julian, then 10 years old, saw Grace was at the Sterling family's old estate in Metropolis. It was a day of torrential rain, a sudden downpour. One moment the sky had been clear, the next it was overcast, the air thick and heavy. He had been taking medicine and recuperating constantly since childhood due to health issues, and despite his young age, his weight was already far beyond that of his peers. He was reading by the music room window when he suddenly heard the sound of glass breaking. Looking out, he saw a girl holding an umbrella standing in the pouring rain in the courtyard. Her apricot-colored skirt was damp with rain, and she held a tiny puppy in her arms. Hey, she lifted her umbrella slightly, revealing her delicate face and the shivering puppy in her embrace. Her voice cut through the rain, reaching his ears, your house staff is trying to beat it to death. The puppy had a gruesome wound on its hind leg, and the blood mixed with rain stained her pristine white wrist, deeply alarming young Julian. Julian pushed open the window, letting the wind and rain from outside spill into the room. The girl, without a word, folded her umbrella and climbed through the window. As she vaulted in, droplets of water from her hair brushed his hand. In his meager childhood, that was the only moment his heart stirred. Your house staff is abusing animals. A puppy this small could be released or given to an animal shelter. There's no need to be so brutal. They were clearly beating it to death. Julian remained silent, simply watching her. Having been raised in the family estate, recuperating from illness, he had almost no opportunities to go out. All his knowledge came from his private tutors, and all his games ended in solitaire chess matches. The playful sounds of children his age were merely distant echoes from outside his window. The archetypal CEO profile, a frail body, a lonely childhood, and a rigorous education. As recounted this, a hazy image of that moment surfaced in my mind. Though blurred, it was definitely there. But 20 years had passed, and even the most profound memories fade, especially since I hadn't taken the incident to heart back then. Still, I took a sip of red wine, ing thoughtfully, did I tell you my name back then? How did you know it was me? I genuinely couldn't remember if I'd said my name. I hoped Mr. Julian wasn't mistaken or confusing me with someone else, that would be a huge misunderstanding. Of course, even if you hadn't, I wouldn't have been wrong, he said, his voice calm and certain, his eyes gleaming with earnestness. So, that puppy. I subtly rotated my wine glass to hide my slight tremor. He leaned back into the shadows, his face flickering with light and shadow. 15 years, that's the limit for a dog's life. She had come and gone in a hurry, and the puppy she left behind became his only companion and solace for 15 years. That apricot-colored figure from that year, crossing the river of time, gradually merged with the person sitting before him now, dressed in clothes of a similar hue. I suddenly realized that 20 years of time collapsed at this moment into the light in his deep eyes, reflecting my dazed face. It turns out some people truly safeguard a childhood memory like a priceless treasure. Julian, I said his full name for the first time, the last syllable lingering on my tongue. You wouldn't be. The words caught in my throat, like a drop of wine clinging to the rim of a glass, poised to fall. Reason told me that asking such a question would make me sound conceited. How could the formidable head of Sterling be preoccupied with a girl he met fleetingly 20 years ago? But when his gaze, piercing through the flickering candlelight, landed on me, the subtle hints hidden in the details wove into an inescapable net. He used his dinner fork to neatly arrange a piece of steak, placing it before me. The light reflecting off the silver danced on his slightly upturned lips. Ms. Grace likes to leave sentences unfinished? I opened my mouth to speak, but caught a familiar figure in my peripheral vision at the restaurant entrance, Liam, with a girl clinging to his arm. She was slender and a little frail, her face still pale from a prolonged illness. It was Lily. Julian clearly noticed my gaze and followed my line of sight. Do you know why he's so hung up on Lily? I took a bite of the steak and proactively brought up the topic. Julian raised an eyebrow. Because attempted suicide for him. At the time, Lily didn't know she was pregnant. The baby was naturally lost, and her body was left with lingering health issues. I let out a cold scoff. He holds on to someone else out of guilt, yet still wants to be with me. He's utterly delusional. I stared at the two figures not far away. So, I gave them a push. I gestured for the waiter to bring a glass of warm water. The warm water soothed my parched throat. If you've been following me, you should have already known all this without me having to tell you, right? Julian neither confirmed nor denied it. While I were talking, Liam quickly approached, an angry expression on his face as if his wife had cheated on him. He grabbed my wrist, his fingers almost digging into my skin, the pain making me wince. Explain yourself, Grace, what are you doing here? His breathing was hot and ragged, his expression suppressed. I yanked my hand back but couldn't break free. The next second, I unhesitatingly grabbed the dinner fork from the table and plunged it into the back of his hand. Hiss, he gasped, reflexively releasing his grip. Liam! Lily cried out, reaching to steady him. I looked down at my reddened wrist and, without thinking, slapped Liam across the face. I gritted my teeth, my voice as cold as ice. Liam, you're asking for trouble. Julian instantly stood up, his tall frame shielding me. He was 3 or 4 inches taller than Liam, with broad shoulders and taut muscles, standing like an insurmountable wall, radiating a powerful presence. Mr. Taylor, with your girlfriend right beside you, touching another woman is hardly a good look, is it? Julian lowered his voice in warning. Liam's eyes were dark and hostile. He clearly didn't recognize Julian, and his tone was mocking. Who do you think you are? The woman across from you is my girlfriend. I'd like to ask why you're with her. What's your relationship? The moment he finished speaking, my peripheral vision caught sight of a wavering Lily, her fingers clutching her sleeve tightly. Oh? Julian sneered. Wasn't it you, Mr. Taylor, who abandoned your fiancé on your engagement day to rush to your ex-girlfriend, according to what's trending? If I recall correctly, your engagement was already called off, wasn't it? Liam's face was ashen-faced. He clearly recalled the incident and was about to burst out, but Lily suddenly spoke up. Liam, what you just said, is she Grace, your fiancé? Her voice trembled slightly, and her eyes were red-rimmed. Allow me to interject, I said, my gaze sharp as it swept over Lily's face on the verge of tears. Ms. Lily, I'm aware of your past relationship with Liam, and I have no interest in your future one. Our engagement has been formally dissolved. We no longer have any relationship, so I kindly ask you to choose your words carefully. Before I finished speaking, Lily suddenly stepped forward, grabbing my hand. Tears streamed down her face, her voice choked as if she had suffered an immense injustice. Ms. Grace, I know that because of me, you and Liam are at odds, but Liam truly loves you. Please don't misunderstand him because of me, okay? She cried, almost trembling, as if she were the one bearing a heavy burden and making great sacrifices. He's just obligated to take care of me out of friendship. I'll leave once I recover from my illness. Please, don't break up with Liam. Her fingertips were cold, gripping my hand painfully. I watched her helplessly fragile act with cold eyes, unmoved. The surrounding people, unaware of the full story, cast curious glances, whispering to their companions. I suddenly smiled. Using the hand she was still clutching, I pulled her close. My red lips near her ear, and whispered in a voice only she could hear, "The one who texted you to come back to the country, that was me." The expression on her face was a sight to behold: shock, bewilderment, disbelief, finally melting into a twisted panic. Satisfied, I released her, stepping back, calmly observing, "You." Her lips trembled, but no complete sound escaped. Liam sensed the abnormality and quickly went to support her, his gaze directed at me. "Lily, what's wrong?" Lily snapped back to reality, managing a pale smile. "And nothing." The moment the last word left her lips, she unexpectedly fainted. Liam gasped in alarm, catching her and crying out urgently, "Lily! Lily, Grace, what did you say to her?" Blood still seeped from the back of his hand as he stared at me with repressed anger and disappointment, dropping his threat. "Grace, why do you always have to make things difficult for her? If anything happens to Lily, we're not done." I looked down at him, my gaze contemptuous, utterly arrogant. "With just you and your Joe? Liam, extreme confidence turns into arrogance, and you're going to suffer a huge loss. You've been lost in your own little world lately, haven't you? Go home and read the financial news to sober up." Julian stood beside me, a smile playing on his lips, his eyes admiring me as if he had already seen through everything. Outside the restaurant, night had deepened. Julian took the suit jacket offered by the waiter but didn't put it on, simply draping it casually over his arm. The night breeze was cool. He turned to me. "May I give you a ride? Mr. Julian, so chivalrous?" He chuckled lazily. "Depends on the person." I looked at him teasingly. "But you've been drinking." The black Maybach pulled up in front of us. The car door opened, and he placed a hand gently on the roof, his posture elegant and restrained, as if to prevent me from bumping my head, yet maintaining a perfectly appropriate distance that felt unobtrusive. Julian raised an eyebrow and smiled. "CEOs never drive themselves." I paused, surprised that such a stern and composed man would joke about himself. The engine started, and the neon lights outside the window flashed past like streams of light. The car fell silent for a moment, save for the soft instrumental music and the occasional click of a turn signal. I turned my head to look out the window. The night cast blurry reflections on the glass, but his profile was clearly etched upon it. The car was so quiet I could almost hear our breathing. The leather seats were so soft I felt I could sink into them. A faint ebony oud scent, identical to the one on him, filled the car, making me drowsy. I closed my eyes slightly, letting sleep slowly overtake me. When I opened my eyes again, the car was already stopped at the neighborhood entrance. I shifted slightly and realized a suit jacket had been placed over me at some point. The passenger seat beside me was empty, and the driver was nowhere to be seen. Julian leaned against the front of the car, an unlit cigarette between his fingers, looking down at his phone screen. The night wind ruffled his hair, his shirt collar slightly open, creating a cold-toned silhouette against the streetlights, possessing an indescribable beauty. He seemed to sense my gaze and looked up. Through the windshield, our eyes met briefly. I looked down at the jacket draped over me and pushed the door open to get out. "Awake?" he said, putting away his phone, his voice gentle. "Why didn't you wake me?" I made to take off the jacket to return it to him. He stopped my movement with an unyielding gesture. "Keep it on. It's chilly tonight." His expression unchanged, he simply snapped the cigarette in his hand and tossed it into the nearby trash can, saying casually, "You were sleeping soundly." The night breeze rustled past right on cue. I didn't fuss, pulling the jacket collar tighter around me. "Mr. Julian is quite nice, very different from the rumors," I teased him intentionally. Julian leaned against the car, a hint of lazy charm about him, his voice smooth. Still the same two words, "depends on the person." The night wind lifted the ends of my hair. Feeling the ambiguous words, I smiled and turned to leave, but after 3 steps, I suddenly stopped, turning my head slightly. "Julian, until next time." The streetlights stretched his silhouette, and his lingering, smiling reply drifted through the air. "Until next time, Ms. Grace." Sterling and Vance's joint press conference preparations were in full swing. In the interim, Julian and I had several more meetings to discuss various details, and I gradually became more familiar with him. A delicate tension of unspoken attraction lingered between us, yet we both implicitly agreed not to break the current ambiguous relationship. Adult emotions are always about knowing when to stop and prioritizing comfort. The press conference hall was brightly lit. Grace stood on stage, tapping the screen as she presented the real estate project developed in collaboration between the two corporations. This project will utilize the most advanced construction techniques, including the best materials, ensuring every detail and safety measure stands up to scrutiny. Her voice was clear and strong, and camera flashes popped continuously below the stage. Julian stood beside her, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, his gaze subtly but consistently fixed on me. Suddenly, crash! A sharp cracking sound came from the ceiling, followed by gasps from the crowd. I looked up to see a massive spotlight swaying precariously, about to fall in my direction. In the blink of an eye, I didn't even have time to react before a figure suddenly pushed me away. Julian. I stumbled and fell to the ground, my pupils contracting when I turned back. Glass fragments scattered everywhere. Julian groaned, kneeling on the ground, his right hand supporting him while his left hand pressed tightly against his right shoulder, dark red blood seeping between his fingers. The spotlight's metal frame lay shattered at his feet, its sharp edges tearing through his shirt, revealing a gruesome wound. The scene instantly plunged into chaos. Security personnel quickly took control of the situation. I immediately barked orders, call the police immediately, then seal all exits and retrieve surveillance footage. No one is allowed in or out until the police arrive. At that moment, paramedics also rushed over. I stayed by his side, my heart pounding, trying to suppress my trembling. Mr. Julian, would you call this a heroic rescue? Pain and blood loss had made Julian's face pale, but he was still smiling. Not a hero, but Ms. Grace, you are indeed a beauty. Absolutely insane. I cursed inwardly, simultaneously letting out a sigh of relief. He could still joke, so it seemed he wasn't seriously hurt. I entrusted the follow-up matters to assistant, asking him to coordinate with Julian's assistant to clean up the mess at the site, while I accompanied Julian to the hospital. Julian's wound looked gruesome but was not serious, though he had lost a lot of blood and would need a period of rest. To prevent infection, I insisted on a 2-day hospitalization for observation. Just as Julian and I were about to go to his hospital room to rest, we unexpectedly ran into someone in the hallway. It was Liam. Liam looked up, his eyes meeting mine. He froze for a moment, instinctively wanting to walk over, but my expression instantly turned cold. He halted, remembering someone else was with him. I ignored his quickly averted gaze and helped Julian into his room. As I helped him lie down, Julian abruptly spoke, "Has he still been bothering you lately?" I paused, then shook my head. He was at first, but each time I tore him apart. Liam is egoistic and self-absorbed. After enough scolding, he was too ashamed to come back. Julian chuckled at my words. I know, Ms. Grace, you have a sharp tongue. Just as I was about to reply, a gentle knock sounded on the hospital room door. Come in, Julian said, his smile fading as his voice returned to its usual detachment. The door opened, and Liam stood alone in the doorway. He looked at me, his face downcast. Grace, can we talk? It won't take long. I thought for a moment, then nodded, instructing Julian, get some rest. I'll be back. Liam and I went to the waiting area, standing a short distance apart. What do you want to say? Make it quick. Seeing my demeanor, Liam let out a bitter laugh. Do you dislike me that much now? I impatiently furrowed my brows, urging him, what do you want to say? Liam looked up, letting out a long sigh. Lily is pregnant. It's mine. This time, I truly have to take responsibility. You should take responsibility, I said coldly. Lily's love for Liam was genuine, and her body was truly frail. Getting pregnant again was not easy, and the child was Liam's. Even if love was gone and only guilt remained, by all accounts, Liam had to take responsibility. Your expression is so cold, as if your whole being is saying, what does this have to do with me? Grace, do you really not love me anymore? He bent over, a look of pain and shame appearing on his face. Liam, I said, watching him with detached amusement, your childhood friend is pregnant with your baby, yet you're asking another woman if she loves you. You truly are, a leopard doesn't change its spots. You never made things difficult for Lily, did you? Liam, Lily is like this because of you. As a woman, I understand her, and I have no reason to make things difficult for her. The only one I've ever detested is you. She needs you, and you can't let go of her. If you had seriously told me that we should break up peacefully, I would have had some respect for you. But unfortunately, as a man, you were dating a current girlfriend while longing for your ex-girlfriend on social media. Fickle and utterly shameless, Liam, I disrespect you. I watched him silently, watching the faint light in his eyes dim little by little, watching him suddenly raise a hand to cover his eyes, his shoulders shaking. My words were clear enough. I didn't care what he thought now, nor did I care about his and Lily's future. I had my own path to walk and wouldn't pause for irrelevant people. When I left the hospital, dusk had already fallen. I stood on the steps, taking a deep breath. The chilly air filled my lungs, dissipating the scent of disinfectant. My phone vibrated in my bag. Michael sent a message: Ms. Grace, the incident at the press conference was intentional. The police have opened an investigation, and Sterling and we both demand a thorough inquiry. I briefly replied and looked up at a lit window in the hospital wing. Julian's figure was faintly visible against the curtain, tall and straight like a pine tree. My phone screen lit up again. It was a text from him: when does Ms. Grace plan to visit the injured party? Only 2 days in the hospital and already expecting visitors? A smile unconsciously curved my lips. I was about to reply when another message popped up immediately: while you're at it, let's discuss the location selection for the Aurora Borealis observation point in Iceland. My fingertip hovered above the screen. I smiled and quickly replied: our company retreat doesn't seem to have anything to do with Mr. Julian, does it? 2 months later, Reykjavik. The circle wind, laden with cold, hit me squarely. I pulled my clothes tighter, unable to adapt to the extreme cold at once. The team members, seemingly oblivious to the temperature, excitedly rushed toward the airport shuttle bus. Michael ran back and forth with his camera, like a playful puppy. Stepping out of his composed elite assistant mode, Michael was, at heart, a young man full of vitality. Ms. Grace, he suddenly rushed over, shoving the camera right in front of me. Care to share your thoughts? I pushed the lens away, but in my peripheral vision, I caught sight of a familiar figure at the terminal exit. Julian wore a long black down jacket, the silver fox fur around his collar framing his dark, ink-like brows. He leaned casually against an SUV, twirling his car keys, and raised an eyebrow at me with a smile. You and Mr. Julian are. Michael's camera darted between us, and he suddenly understood. Got it. I'll take everyone and head out first. Iceland's black sand beach was a somber, grayish color in winter. Waves carrying floating ice crashed against the shore. Julian and I walked along the beach, our steps sinking into the sand, our white breaths quickly dissipating into the wind. Mr. Julian, so comfortable? Coming all the way to Iceland by yourself? I leisurely kicked at a piece of broken ice. Julian suddenly grabbed my wrist, pulling me into his embrace. The next second, a sharp ice shard smashed exactly where we had just been standing. Be careful, he said, releasing my hand and continuing forward with his usual composure. Still the same words: depends on the person. No sooner had he spoken than the sky was suddenly torn apart, emerald-colored aurora cascaded down like a waterfall, its rapidly shifting light reflecting on his sharply defined profile. He gazed up at the sky, his Adam's apple tracing a sharp line in the light and shadow. His low voice blended with the wind, the aurora swirling above us like a galaxy stirred by deities. I looked into his starlit eyes and suddenly understood the origin of all the indulgence hidden in the details. Cheers from the team members echoed in the distance. Michael waved at us, tripod in hand. Julian, as if by magic, pulled out a velvet box from his pocket. Inside was a pair of matching gold rings, with our initials engraved on the inner surface. The aurora reached its peak at that moment, its shimmering lights casting an ethereal glow over our silhouettes. Julian, I whispered, standing on tiptoe to reach his ear. If you catch me, I'll. In his astonished gaze, I laughed and toward the team members, who were dancing excitedly in the snow. Julian stood frozen for 2 seconds, then strode after that figure.